What if the greatest intelligence you possess has absolutely nothing to do with your brain?
Yeah, that's a wild thought to start with.
Right. I mean, I really want you to think about that for a second because today we're doing a deep dive into a philosophy that makes this pretty radical claim.
Really radical,
Yeah.
honestly.
It claims that your logic, your reasoning, your math, all those perfectly constructed
The
arguments.
things we prize so much.
Exactly. That all of that is actually the weakest, most immature tool you have for understanding reality.
It completely flips the script.
It really does. I mean, think about the way your body knows hunger long before your mind actually forms the sentence, like, I should eat. Or, how the earth knows that spring is coming before anyone flips a page on a calendar.
Nature just knows.
Exactly. So today we are exploring this truly profound, highly contemplative philosophical essay. And it centers on this concept of feminine intelligence.
And just to be clear for the listeners, our mission today is to explore this source material and see what happens when we move away from the thinking mind, right?
Right. And return to body intelligence, which the text calls the Soma.
Yeah, the Soma. We're going to explore how that shift, according to the author, completely changes our understanding of the universe, our relationships, and
Oh, and this is the best part. How recognizing a natural sort of gravitational feminine dominance can actually lead to incredible personal and collective peace.
it's a remarkable piece of writing, really, because it asks us to look at the systems we just, take for granted every single day.
Like how we validate knowledge.
Exactly. How we view the origins of the cosmos, how we navigate attraction and devotion. The author is completely inverting the modern paradigm here.
They really are. They're challenging this super rigid hierarchy we've built, right?
Yeah.
The one that places logical argument at the absolute apex of the human experience. Okay, let's unpack this. Because to really grasp the philosophy in this text, we actually have to completely redefine what it means to be rational.
Yeah, we have to throw out the old dictionary definition.
Pretty much. The text starts right at the individual level, looking at how we process reality before language or math or logic ever even enter the picture. And like we said, it uses the word soma.
Right.
But, for someone listening who might hear that and think it's just a trendy wellness buzzword, let's ground this. What are we actually talking about when we say somatic knowing?
Well, when we use the term soma here, we're talking about the living, breathing, feeling intelligence of the body itself.
Like the actual physical body.
Yes, exactly.
Mm.
If we want to look at it practically, just think about the nervous system. I mean, there's a reason we talk about a gut feeling.
Oh, sure.
Human gut literally has hundreds of millions of neurons.
Wait, really? Hundreds of millions?
Hundreds of millions.
Okay.
It is quite literally a second brain that is constantly processing raw data from your environment.
Right.
Your body acts as a physical archive of your entire life. Long before your conscious mind has the vocabulary to describe a threat or, a comfort or a truth, your nervous system has already recognized it. Sensation and presence existed before systems.
So the essay is arguing that this bodily intelligence isn't some, I don't know, primitive, lesser form of understanding that we eventually outgrew when we invented logic.
No, not at all. It's the foundation.
Yeah, the text uses this beautiful metaphor here. It notes that thought is just the translation, but soma is the source text.
A source text, I love that phrasing.
It's so good, right? The mind is essentially acting as an interpreter, just trying to decode what the body has already recorded.
What's fascinating here is that it completely reframes how we view intuition. Modern society often just dismisses a purely physical knowing as irrational.
All the time.
Right. If you say, I just know this in my bones, the immediate societal response is, well, where is your proof? Show me your data.
Put it in a spreadsheet for me.
Exactly. But the text argues that trusting the body is actually being deeply rational in the oldest, truest sense of the word.
Because you're reading from the original.
Yes, you are choosing to read from the original code rather than relying on a secondary copy.
I think about reading poetry translated from another language. Like if you've ever read a breathtaking poem in its original language and then read the translation, you know exactly what I mean.
Oh, it always loses something.
It always loses the magic. The thinking mind is like that translator. It is desperately and sometimes very clumsily trying to capture the raw lightning of the body's actual experience.
That's a great way to put it. The translation might be useful for explaining it to someone else, sure, but it is never the lightning itself.
Which leads to a really personal realization for me, honestly. I think about how often I've tried to, logic my way out of a bad relationship.
Oh, we've all been there.
Right. You sit there with a spreadsheet of pros and cons, trying to rationally justify staying, while your body has been literally screaming at you to leave since day one.
Your nervous system already knew.
Exactly. So why does our society constantly demand that we abandon the original blueprint to validate ourselves through logical argument?
Well, according to the author, it speaks to a deep insecurity within the thinking mind.
Really? Insecurity.
Yeah. The mind loves control. It loves to categorize, to argue, to win. But a pure physical sensation doesn't argue. It just exists.
Huh.
So the mind feels threatened by it. It feels the need to assert its own dominance by demanding that everything be translated into its language, the language of logic.
But the text is very clear, right? Living in feminine intelligence does not mean we just abandon the mind or stop thinking.
No, no, no. We don't throw logic out the window. It means we reorder the hierarchy.
We put it back in its rightful place.
Exactly. We let the body lead the mind home. We let the raw data guide the translation, not the other way around.
Oh, wait, let me play devil's advocate here for a second. Because the skeptical listener is probably thinking, if we just rely on somatic feelings over logic, isn't that how people make terrible, impulsive decisions?
That's a fair question.
Right. Like, isn't that how we react out of anger or fear? How do we build bridges or cure diseases without logic at the absolute top of the pyramid?
That is a very important distinction to make, and the text actually draws a strict line here.
Okay.
There's a profound difference between a reactive emotion, like, say, a sudden spike of panic or a trauma response, and deep somatic knowing.
So they aren't the same thing.
Not at all. Reactive emotion is usually the mind panicking and sending stress signals to the body.
Mm-hmm.
Somatic knowing, in the context of this essay, is described as a quiet, unmistakable groundedness.
It doesn't feel erratic.
Right. It feels like a heavy, quiet truth. And to your point about building bridges, the essay isn't anti-science or anti-intellect.
It's not saying we shouldn't do math.
Exactly. It simply suggests that logic is a tool. It is an evolutionary instrument. The problem arises when the tool convinces itself that it is the master builder.
Which is the perfect pivot, honestly, because the essay doesn't just keep this concept confined to the individual human body.
No, it goes much bigger.
Way bigger. If the nervous system is the blueprint of the individual, the text argues that the feminine is the blueprint of the entire universe. We move from personal soma to cosmic origins.
This is where the philosophy scales up significantly. It looks at ancient cosmology.
Yeah, I love this part.
In almost every major cosmological tradition, at least the ones that haven't been entirely severed from their roots, the feminine principle is not just one pole among equals.
It isn't just the yin sitting neatly next to the yang.
Right. The feminine is the foundational ground from which polarity itself emerges.
The primordial waters. The void that contains everything. The generative dark before light even knew what it was.
Yes.
Let's give these concepts some actual weight because the essay brings up some incredible specific references. It mentions Shakti and Shiva from Hindu cosmology.
A classic example.
Yeah. For those who might not know, Shakti isn't just sitting next to Shiva as, like, a companion. She is the vital cosmic energy. She animates him.
Without her, he can't move.
Exactly. The text points out that without Shakti, Shiva is just stillness without breath. He's like a device without a battery.
And if we look at the Sumerian tradition, which is one of the oldest recorded human civilizations, you have Namu.
Namu, the primordial sea.
Yes. She gives birth to heaven and earth long before any structuring, organizing, rule-making deity ever arrives on the scene.
So the container comes first.
Always. And the text makes a really powerful distinction here. It says this is mythology as memory, not just mythology as a cute metaphor.
Wait, mythology as memory.
Yeah. It is humanity attempting to remember the actual literal sequence of creation. Nature did not emerge from logic. Logic emerged from nature's need to know itself, using one of its youngest evolutionary instruments.
Which is the human thinking mind.
Exactly.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the text points out that the rational mind has this relentless hunger to be foundational.
It really does.
It constantly tries to reverse this natural sequence. The mind wants the word, the law, the mathematical principle to be the origin point. It made me wonder, is our modern obsession with logic first? Just the mind's ego trying to usurp the very container that birthed it?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that is exactly what the author is arguing.
Wow.
The rational mind has an enormous ego. It desperately wants to believe it is the architect of reality. But the mother was here first. And she hasn't left.
She's still the ground we're walking on.
Acknowledging the feminine as the original container shifts our entire worldview. Think about it practically. If you believe logic and structuring rules are the foundation of the universe, your worldview becomes entirely about control.
About manipulation and dominance over nature.
Right, you feel like you have to conquer your environment. But when you remember that the generative dark, the pure somatic feminine, is the foundation, your worldview shifts to one of sequence and reverence.
You stop trying to control the ocean, and you finally learn how to float in it.
Beautifully said.
Well, if you're listening to this and thinking, okay, this all sounds incredibly poetic, but, I have a mortgage to pay and I need to use my logical brain today, the text actually addresses how this cosmic reality manifests in actual everyday human
It
connection.
brings it right back down to earth.
It does, because if we accept that the universe is built on this feminine foundation, what happens when people actually try to relate to each other with that mindset?
It changes everything about attraction and relating.
Yeah. The essay shifts to explore what it means when women are drawn primarily to the feminine. It talks specifically about lesbianism, but from a deeply spiritual and somatic perspective. We should clarify that we are just reporting what the author explores here.
Yes, and the author does so by completely stripping away the societal narratives we usually attach to human attraction. Society almost always frames orientations as political stances, right? Or combative choices.
Like, what team are you aligning with and who are you rejecting?
Exactly. But the text describes this attraction at its most conscious, not as a political position at all. It is not a reaction against the masculine, and it certainly isn't born from a wound or a trauma,
It describes it as a homecoming.
an orientation toward the sacred.
The phrase that really stuck out to me was the recognition of a shared frequency.
Oh, that's a key concept in the text.
It's just so evocative. It's an emotional truth and a somatic depth that simply requires no translation. It makes me think of two acoustic instruments.
Like resonance.
Exactly. Imagine two cellos sitting in a room, and they are perfectly tuned to the exact same resonant pitch. If you pluck a thick, heavy string on one cello, the corresponding string on the other cello across the room just naturally begins to vibrate.
They just vibrate together effortlessly.
Yeah. You don't have to force them. You don't have to logically explain to one cello why it should vibrate with the other. They just share the raw frequency.
That's a perfect analogy.
And the text is so firm on this point. This is a rooted biological spiritual truth. It's not a preference that can be debated.
This raises an important question about how we demand people justify their lives.
Oh, definitely.
When a woman says she is most herself, most open, and most arrived in the presence of the feminine, she is stating a reality. She is trusting what her body has always known.
It is the full embrace of the feminine as primary, right? As the most activating and alive force.
Yes. And the essay states unequivocally that this reality deserves complete honor, respect, and acknowledgement from every single person who encounters it, because it is the source code speaking.
So what does this all mean for the masculine? This leads to a really fascinating and frankly kind of uncomfortable dynamic.
It does challenge a lot of egos.
For sure. Because if the feminine is the foundational ground, and if this shared frequency between women is a sacred, self-contained orientation, how does a man relate to a feminine presence that is completely rooted in its own frequency and explicitly romantically unavailable to him?
This is perhaps one of the most unexpected and beautiful turns in the essay. It addresses the masculine directly.
And what does it say?
It states that the most beautiful expression of the masculine is not dominance.
Which is the opposite of what society teaches.
Right. Combative dominance is what society usually teaches men to strive for. But the essay argues that the masculine's highest expression is devotion.
Devotion.
A man who is most fully himself does not need to insist on being the foundation of everything. He can feel the feminine presence, recognize its incredible depth, and bow to it. Not out of weakness, but out of profound recognition of the origin.
The text says a man can hear a woman say, "The feminine is my home," and actually feel illuminated rather than threatened.
Because he discovers that the feminine is the ground he's been standing on all along.
The woman's certainty acts as a mirror, not a wall. But I have to stop you there because the human ego is incredibly loud.
Extremely loud.
A warrior who knows when to be still sounds great in a philosophical essay, but in real life,
Yeah.
a guy being told you are fundamentally not part of my orientation is going to feel a sting. Human biology is wired to feel rejection in that scenario. So how does this philosophy actually move a person from the biological sting of rejection to this profound peace you're talking about?
Well, it is entirely natural for the ego to feel that initial sting.
Hmm.
The ego wants to be chosen,
It desperately wants to be the center of the story at all times.
always. But the text is pointing toward a peace that exists beyond the ego's immediate panic. When a woman is completely honest about her somatic truth,
When she doesn't soften her knowing.
right, when she doesn't perform an interest, she doesn't feel just to make a man comfortable, she is offering reality. Pure, unfiltered reality.
And reality doesn't coddle us, it's clear.
Exactly, it doesn't coddle. But here is the mechanism behind that peace. When a person can receive another's unsoftened reality with an open heart, it actually clarifies and frees them.
Frees them from what?
Think about how exhausting the ego's game of pursuit is. If you don't have to convince someone to choose you, if you don't have to break down a wall or prove your logical worth to them, you are suddenly free to just witness them as a magnificent force of nature.
Wow.
You are invited to find that same quality of absolute, unwavering rootedness within yourself. That's why it is a mirror. Her absolute certainty shows you the peace of standing in your own truth without needing to conquer hers.
You don't have to conquer it, you just get to witness it.
Exactly.
Which forces us to look at the word we've been dancing around this entire time. Dominance.
A very loaded word.
Very loaded. We hear feminine dominance, and immediately the thinking mind pictures a power struggle. It pictures a matriarchy ruling with an iron fist.
Because the thinking mind only understands dominance in a combative sense.
Right.
It assumes dominance means overpowering someone else, enforcing rules, demanding submission, or asserting control. But the text redefines it completely. It describes feminine dominance as dominance in the gravitational sense.
Gravitational. I love this concept. It's brilliant.
It's like the way a mountain anchors a landscape. A mountain doesn't fight the wind to prove it's a mountain. It doesn't argue with the clouds to assert its superiority.
It doesn't need to.
No.
Yeah.
It just sits there, completely unbothered, with pure gravity. Or, think about a more relatable, everyday example. Think about the most respected person in your office or your community.
Okay. Yeah.
It is rarely the loud person yelling, enforcing rules, and demanding everyone look at them. That's combative dominance.
They're usually overcompensating.
Exactly. The truly dominant presence is usually the person who sits quietly, knows their worth perfectly, and naturally draws people to them for advice. That is gravitational dominance.
They pull you in.
Yes. They are dominant simply by being what they are entirely without apology.
That is a perfect analogy. The quiet person in the office holds the gravity. And tying it back to the very beginning of our discussion, this gravitational dominance requires absolutely nothing violent or demanding.
Nothing at all. It is the natural, inevitable result of a person moving from the translated panic of the mind back to the original code of their body.
The source text.
The source text. When a woman trusts her somatic knowing, when she honors her deepest attractions without apology, she isn't asserting power over anyone. She is simply returning to the source.
She's just being the mountain.
Yes. And by doing so, she quietly, almost invisibly, invites everyone around her to drop their armor and do exactly the same.
It's an invitation to stop fighting. She
Exactly.
brings all of this profound cosmic philosophy right back to you, listening to this deep dive.
Right, how does this apply to your Tuesday morning?
Yeah. Understanding feminine intelligence isn't just an abstract idea to debate at a dinner party. Recognizing it as a physical truth, as the origin of all things, and as a gravitational force can radically shift how you interact with your own life.
It changes everything.
It really does. It changes how you listen to your own body's intuition. Like maybe next time you'll trust the gut feeling before you write the pros and cons list.
Put the spreadsheet away.
Right. And it changes how you view the people around you. If you're listening to this, imagine shifting from a mindset of needing to control, convince, or understand everyone to simply witnessing and respecting their rooted truth.
It's a huge relief.
It is. This wisdom asks nothing violent of anyone. It just asks for recognition. Because once we recognize the original code, love actually becomes possible.
It creates the space where genuine connection can happen. When we stop demanding that everyone translate their reality into our preferred logical format, we finally see them clearly.
So we want to leave you with a final thought, a challenge to build on everything we've unpacked today.
Something to take with you.
Yeah, the next time you feel a sudden, undeniable knowing in your body, a pure physical somatic truth, What would happen if, just for a moment, you didn't rush to translate it into a logical argument for your mind?
Just pause.
What if you didn't try to justify it to your friends or prove it with data? What if you let that physical sensation stand alone as the undisputed blueprint of your reality and simply let it breathe?
Just like the body knows hunger.
Just like the Earth knows spring.
Let the raw data speak for itself.
Until next time, keep diving deep.